Hi, we're the Organic Coders. We've been looking to translate the legislation from the Compensation for Live Organ Donors Act 2016 into code. Hi, we're the Organic Coders team. I'm Nigel. I'm here as a back-end developer and also just general dog's body, getting the coffee and all that kind of stuff.
Hi, my name's Alan. I joined the team as a DevOps specialist. So I was responsible for setting up all the back-end servers, and then also I was a front-end developer and helping to design the website and then the front-end calculator.
Hi, my name's Jacob. I brought my development skills to the team. Drove all the way down here from Taranaki. I helped work on the text calculations and web API.
Hi, my name's Bridget. I flew all the way here from Tasmania. I specialise in legislation and I helped create the link data for the code.
So on the first day we got introduced to our mentors. Luckily we had Rachel around who did these great drawings of them so that we could remember their faces. In addition to these, we also had Robert come and help us with operationalising our linked data into the code. And Matty was a great help with OpenFisca and his knowledge around that, and he helped us work around a couple of issues that we had. So as a team we got round the table and discussed what we were going to code for the weekend. It was quite easy in the end. We chose this act partly because it does great social good and also pulls two or more acts together. And the social good really comes down to helping save a life by saving time. So the purpose of the Act is to remove the financial burden and deterrent on the donation of organs by the live donors. In New Zealand, there's about 300 people every year who decide to donate an organ, and this can be increased if we make it easier and more financially viable for people to donate organs. So what does the Act actually cover? Well, it covers live organ donors for up to 100% of their loss of earnings in the period while they are recuperating having donated an organ. This cover applies for up to 12 weeks from the time the operation occurs. To apply, the donors fill in a form and send it to the Ministry of Health, who then take up to 10 days to process the form and estimate the loss of earnings that the person will have. We thought we could improve this by developing an application that would automatically give them a good estimate of what their loss of earnings might be.
So that we knew that we were building something that actually would help actual people, we decided we would go and talk to some people who had donated an organ and find out from them what the experience was like. We got to talk to Richie, who had donated an organ a couple of years ago. We also had a look at the Ministry of Health website, and that showed us through what they thought was their user journey. Together with Richie and the Ministry of Health user journey, we've created a journey that reflects the actual experience of Richie and how he came to donate an organ to his dad. So first of all, he was moved to donate an organ because his loved one had become ill and needed a new kidney. He then did a bit of investigative work that wasn't just looking at the website or calling. It was talking to professionals, talking to his dad, talking to his loved ones. Then it was making the call to the Ministry of Health. Then came the donation, the recovery, and the return to work. Richie's story is inspiring. 5 years ago, he learned his father had kidney problems and that his kidneys were failing. For him, it was a simple decision. Both he and his dad were quite healthy otherwise, and so he felt that donating a kidney was the best thing he could do for his dad. Once they'd made that decision together, he contacted the New Zealand Kidney Association to learn about the process. He really wanted to talk to other people about what it meant for them to donate, about the success rate of living with only one kidney. How did the whole process actually work, and would it change his current lifestyle? We asked him, what he thought the compensation would have meant to him had he been able to access it. He said that it's one of the barriers. It's an intensely stressful situation, and the compensation will really help.
So I want to take you through the technical aspects of our implementation. First, for infrastructure, we set up a basic two-tier infrastructure on Catalyst Cloud. For a backend or an API server, we used OpenFisca, and we set that up here. And then for the front end, we used WordPress as another server set up here. We used the OpenFisca API, and we customized it to encode different aspects of the Compensation for Live Organ Donors Act of 2016, as well as pieces of the KiwiSaver Act and the ACC Act. So we basically put those customizations in this Python file here. And so different aspects of the rules as it pertains to your weekly compensation are encoded here. And then the rules for the KiwiSaver component of it are encoded here. Part of the special stuff about legislation as code is that we're taking an opportunity to encode it as linked data by defining the terms that are in legislation and then resolving them as linked data by assigning the terms a unique identifier. As part of our project, we recognized the act of coding the legislation was also creating a data model of sorts. So we took time to define the terms and reuse existing international vocabularies and standards where we could. Where we found something that had not been defined, we assigned a unique identifier to it, which if we take this piece of code here, for example, earnings period in weeks, we can see the unique identifier points to this reference URL, which goes here and actually gives us the unique identifier. This allows others to connect to this term, giving us an automatic understanding of what's common across a piece of legislation. So for our front-end website, we used WordPress. And so the front-end website basically takes a donor through the potential journey that they'll have, some of the considerations that they need to take as the live organ donor, and then the eligibility requirements that they need to meet. The part where OpenFisca comes into play is in the compensation calculator. So if you're a live organ donor, you're entitled to a compensation period for the work you'd be off while you recover. So we did a calculator so that you can actually see how much you would be entitled to. So the calculator is pretty basic here. You could just say I earned $52,000 over the last 52 weeks. I was not self-employed. I did not receive any ACC, but I did contribute to KiwiSaver at 8%. And then we can click here, and this will actually go call the OpenFisca API to actually apply the rules of the legislation as code and return a value that lets us know that our estimated total weekly compensation would be up to $1,000, or would be $1,000 for up to 12 weeks. And our total weekly KiwiSaver contribution would be $80 for 12 weeks. And that is our solution.